at the Flint River again. And this time I hope the wind sock, I think they call it, it's on my microphone, protects it from the wind. I recorded a segment earlier and it was just too choppy. The wind was just coming in too strong, just cutting in and out. So this microphone came with a sock to put over it, or it looks fuzzy. It looks like one of those little furry animals that was in the episode of Star Trek, Triblets or something like that. Tribbles? Yeah, Tribbles. Yeah, looks like a Tribble. Anybody who was older and saw the original Star Trek series saw me walking about with a microphone cover. I think that's what I had on me, I think. Anyway, I'm just sitting there, day's end. Didn't do much today, really. Thinking about the cancel culture, though. I don't know, maybe I'll put a video out there. Maybe if anybody listening to who actually is on board with the cancel culture can contact me so we can then try to have a dialogue. But I just think that the cancel culture is a bunch of people who just can't come to grips with the fact that, yeah, there's been a lot of mistakes made in the past. And people are horrible to each other. I don't want to count the number of millions and millions and millions of people who died, who never had anything recorded of their lives. History truly is written in blood. It's sad. I was in this class a few years ago, attempt to start to get a master's degree, and it was an interesting class. I just couldn't see myself as being an academic because I don't think they'd want me to discuss being the middle ground or anything politically. You have to be one side or the other. And I go for the truth, and the truth is kind of a middle ground. I mean, but I'm not a middle course person. I just think there's good and bad in every group, and that sounds very childish, very mature, and I'd roll my eyes if I heard somebody else say that. But the cancel culture, I think you're inviting disaster. I think you're actually you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I know that sounds like a cliche, and I know it's probably something you really can't relate to, but I just can't see why you can't accept the fact and move on with the facts, the historical facts, the bloodshed. I think your approach is going to cause more bloodshed. I think your approach is going to prevent anybody from learning from the past. I don't know what your attempt is. If you want to call attention to the oppressiveness of the white European male, in the process you're going to allow others who just become even more oppressive on a population who has never done anything to them or to anybody. We've got new players. This is 2022. The people who did the atrocities of the past are long dead. You don't hear Europeans going on about wanting free stuff from Italians because of the Romans, they're probably the closest representative. And you never hear them demanding to be able to walk in Italian restaurants everywhere and get free food. And let's face it, there's a lot to be said against colonialism. There's also a lot of women, I would think, that in India, for example, who were probably pretty grateful the British put into the practice of sati, where the widow would have to throw herself up on the funeral pyre of her husband at his funeral. I bet you there are a lot of women who would express sincere thanks for that being abolished. Everything we've done is not always what should have been done. We acknowledge that. The thing is, there's not any attempt to try to cover the past. The past is what it is. You can't change a thing in the past. I learned that from a long personal and it was a hard personal lesson I had to learn, but you can't undo the past, even if you wanted to. Most people do want to undo certain things in their past, or the past of their countries or their culture. I don't know. The cancel culture people, I think they have imperfect knowledge and they have immaturity. Two very dangerous eyes. Immaturity and incomplete knowledge. You react too quickly. There's nothing wrong with emotions. There is nothing wrong with it. Matter of fact, I'd say that intelligent people are probably more emotional because they see the depth more. But the thing is, I think the wisdom is you can't always react on your emotions. That can cause some disastrous things to happen. And we've all done that. I think we should learn from it. Emotions are temporary. Those who are not, those emotions which aren't temporary become our habits. And I think if cancel culture wants to point out the errors of the past generations, they should also take that as an example. That the people of the past also had incomplete knowledge and immaturity on their side. And that's always going to be the case. I don't see how if we're ever going to arrive at some kind of perfection. I really don't. We're going to screw up in different ways. I can guarantee that. Anyway, just something to think about. Cancer culture, followers, or advocates. Something to think about. I know you're probably rolling your eyes. It's another old white guy. But I wasn't raised in a privileged area. I'm living in the same area that I grew up in. It's very economically depressed. In the eyes of the leadership of this country, I'm at the margin of existence. We're creating even a greater class of people who has that capability of being more abusive by giving the state more control. They become the elites of across the world. Globalism is a bizarre incoherency to me. You can't get to city leaders of towns and the cities you live in to answer to you. How can you expect people who live thousands of miles away, protected by armies, to ever be persuaded or approached or listen or give a listen to your complaints? The problem with government, it has become too large. It's becoming too impersonal. All the Nazis and the communists, and the communists get mentioned in passing for their violence, but their reign of terror existed and lasted longer, much longer than the one of the Nazis. But we can't bring them up. You'll never see a movie come out that totally details the atrocities committed by the communists. Never. For some reason, they're a protected class. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that the people who want to follow that course are teaching in colleges now, sitting on boards of political science departments and sitting in economics departments across the country. They can never admit the wrongdoings. They can never see that. They can never own up to it. There's a lack of intellectual honesty in their behalf. They're outraged by the abuses of capitalism, but they're never going to admit to a person like Stalin and Lenin and Trotsky the atrocities they committed. Just glossed right over. They're not being honest. And I always thought that was an integral part of education. That's gone by the wayside. As you can see, the cancel culture is actually kind of a fruit of that kind of thinking. Anyway, I'll wrap it up. Hopefully it was bearable. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye.